Lee, these people in Winterton, they look frozen and cold. Here we have a nice warm fire to keep us warm. Tell us a little bit about this character.
Well, this one here is Mrs. Sleet.
Oh, I like how the name kind of,
yeah. Yeah, and you'll find the names. You have Mayor Coldstone, Mrs. Sleet. They come from a very cold town, and you can see their hearts are cold. They're so cold they even have icicles coming off their faces. And the illustrators, a gentleman named Keenan Lafferty, did an amazing job. We asked him to actually make the people look like
Tell us a little
icicles.
about this character.
Well, she's my favorite. She's the star of it. Her name's Mimi. And she's a little orphan girl that comes to this town on Christmas Eve. And she brings her little Humbug. And you can see the Humbug right here. That's Hopper.
Okay. I really like how she looks. I mean, it's personable.
Yeah, it was actually, during the time we were developing the look of her, we started out with kind of the idea of anime and that look, but it didn't quite fit. We wanted it more theatrical, something like a movie, and the artist had a hard time. And then I finally brought in a picture of my daughter, who is Mimi, who I patterned the name after, and they took her eyes and put it in, and that actually made the Mimi character.
That worked, huh?
Yeah.
She's a very heartwarming character.
She is. She really is. And her story is quite fun in the book. Before this, when she was a baby, she was left on the porch of an old man.
So they do a flashback here.
Yeah, here's a flashback. And this old man was so poor. He lived in a little rickety shack and he cleaned windows. And he was so poor that they had very little food and no friends around. And when she grew up, her only friends were bugs. And one day, as she was lonely in her room, she asked one of the bugs to sing a tune. And it did. And that was the first Humbug. And its magical humming then stayed with her and kept her company as she was transferred from orphanage to orphanage. And then as she comes into Winterton, she tells Mrs. Sleet here, that this little Humbug's humming will bring the reindeer of Santa and that Christmas will come back, but they don't believe because they've never had Christmas.
Winterton's so cold that even Santa doesn't go there.
Exactly. There's no warmth in the town. There's nothing in there. The people don't talk to each other.
There's no caring, no laughter, no happiness.
Nothing at all.
No Christmas spirit.
And actually, when she's walking down the street for the first time, she sees this young boy named Charlie, is the first person that Mimi actually meets on the streets of Winterton, and she's cheerful and happy, and she smiles at him and says, "Hi, I'm Mimi," and it's really odd. He's never had anyone do that to him, and so this is his first smile that he's ever had in his life, and you can see the ice is cracking off his face, and then anyway, as it goes through, Mrs. Sleet starts hearing this warm music and starts to warm up. And she starts to think, well, what is that? Could there be something to this? But then, of course, if the cold comes back, she's not used to it. She heads out and she tries to ask everybody who's making that music and gets really, really confused. And then all the people in the town, as they start hearing the music and Mrs. Sleet goes from person to person, they actually start talking to each other again. And they start to warm up. And some people actually smile. And it starts changing things. And this tune in the air brings something new into the area, and it's very odd and strange to them. So the mayor immediately calls everyone into the town hall and brings Mimi in, and as he does, the mayor bursts out laughing and says that this can't be true. This humming is a joke. And as he does, a coldness returns and nobody believes, and then the doubt comes in, and they start questioning it, and
even Mimi, if I remember right.
Yeah, and then what happens is they become so cold that the humming stops. There's nothing in the air, and even Mimi can't hear the humming.
So they've lost their faith, so to speak.
They've all lost their faith as they had those doubts, and you can see they all turned cold, and even Mimi, as the Humbug's humming wasn't there, you can see her tears, they're turning to icicles as well. And so Mimi is then taken back to the orphanage, and this little boy, Charlie, as he's leaving and he goes with his father, he does something that he's never done before. He feels in his heart this warmth and this power, and he wants to act on it. And so he turns away and leaves his father, and he runs back, and you can see the glow and the love and the happiness in his eyes. And as he's running back, he goes to the orphanage, and as he climbs up into the attic of the orphanage, he sees Mimi, and now even Mimi has gone cold.
It's too late. All is lost.
And the Humbug can't even hum.
So what do you do?
Well, what do you do when you lose faith?
You need to come get a copy of the book and find out what happens with Charlie and Mimi in Winterton and Humbug. You know, Lee, I can really see the story of Humbug taking off, just like in the past. You know, we've had great Christmas stories like the Polar Express that just kind of swept across the country, and I can really see your book doing that. That this is just a wonderful, wonderful, heartwarming Christmas story that people can really enjoy together as a family, and the kids can read over and over again.
Well, thank you very much. And that's of course your hope as an author, that it does take off, and we've felt that from all the letters that we've got, that it's catching on and people love the story and they love to read it with their kids. And so it would be a great thing if everybody got to love the story, and our plans are to make it into an animation. So it'll turn into a half-hour animation, kind of like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Oh, really?
And then hopefully after that into a feature film.
Wow. Well, that sounds wonderful. We have absolutely loved having your book in our store. It is our #1 selling Christmas book right now. We invite the public to come down, pick up a copy of Humbug here at Confetti Antiques and Books. Lee, wonderful, wonderful story. Anything you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
Well, first off, thank you for having me in your store and on your show, and the signing that we did the other day, and I'm excited to do that again in December. And I love your family and how they've come to it. And I have to mention, I love your daughter. I think she's a wonderful person. She loves to read books, and she was very happy with Humbug, and so I'm excited about where Humbug is going, and would love to invite you all to take a read of it.
So come down to Confetti Antiques and Books. We'll have signed copies here. Also, we'll be doing a book signing later in the month, and we'll set that up. Lee, thank you again for coming. Thanks for being with us here on Turning the Page.